Welcome to Life Source Education and Encouragement. This is Series 1, First Phoenix, Discovering My Purpose at the 1995 Million Man March on Washington, D.C. This is Episode 2, Second Birth, also known as What I Experienced. Welcome to Episode 2 of my first series titled Second Birth. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't seen Episode 1, I would encourage you to do so before watching Episode 2, but they do kind of stand alone, so whatever you decide is totally fine. Before we jump into the story, I'd like to issue a couple of reminders about my motivation for doing this project in the first place. When an elder dies, a library burns to the ground. That's attributed to an ancient African proverb. Your time is your life. That is why the greatest gift you can give someone is your time. And it's from Rick Warren, A Purpose-Driven Life. On the cover, though, I'm giving you the gift of my time and sharing my library with you before it burns down. Let's also take a moment to revisit the four key questions, as I'll be focusing on question number 2 for this episode. Who are you? What do you want? Why are you here? And where are you going? As context for episode 2, let me share with you how question number 2 applied to me at the time in two parts, consciously and unconsciously. What did I want? Consciously, I believe I wanted the same things that I thought everyone else wanted, to have enough money, to be healthy, to have a good job, um, maybe be thought of well, common things. But unconsciously, I wanted something much more basic. I wanted meaning for my life, value, and hope. Yet those are things I couldn't really speak of consciously because I didn't believe I could have them. I visited places I had never been before, geographically, mentally, and spiritually. I had new experiences that broke chains and bonds that were holding me back. I started being changed from the inside out from the experience. I began feeling a call of destiny on my life, as if I was being pulled in a direction that I was really supposed to be going. So we arrived in DC with little fanfare. The city didn't seem in an unusual state. I guess it was normal for what it was. We checked into the motel, got a good night's sleep, and then got up early to start the day. We decided to take the metro to have the full DC experience, and an amazing thing happened when we got to the station. We came in, it was busy, lots of people, but not overly boisterous. I'm not big on crowds myself, but that one didn't bother. Out of nowhere, as we were looking for what train to get on, a camera crew popped up. Bright light came on, boom, and they began to interview us about who we were, why we were there, what we were expecting. I don't recall at all what answers we gave, but I do remember that when the light turned off and they walked away, my friend turned to me and said, "Do you remember predicting that on the way here?" I did remember it, but even as he emphasized it, I kind of shrugged it off. He goes, "No, no, you said that was going to happen, and therefore it happened. It wasn't luck or accident. You made that happen." So I received him saying that. Can't say I fully believed it, but I was beginning to consider that might be a reality. So the next phase, we managed to get onto a metro train car, and I noticed three interesting things, or at least they were interesting for me. The first one was once we got in the car, all black folk, no one of any other race or group. And I'm not accustomed to that, but I thought that was nice. I said, oh, this is cool. It was relatively quiet. There were conversations going on, but no one was shouting or yelling. And everyone was talking to each other. So there was this engagement going on that looked and sounded and felt good to me. I also noticed that the train car had a lot of women on. Now, I should have expected reasonably that there would be women there supporting the men, but because it was built to me as the Million Man March, I thought it was kind of a guy thing. So to see the women there was surprising, and yet it was ultimately good for me because these women weren't just observing or supporting the men they were with. They were engaging with everyone in the train car. They walked up to us, said hello, looked us in the eye, and I felt really seen. They asked us how we were, where we're from, uh, asked if we needed anything, food, water, words of encouragement. It was really fantastic, just the atmosphere in that train car. And I remember thinking, will it be like this when I get to the mall? Because this is super nice. I've had two experiences that just are blowing me away, challenging everything I believed about myself and our people. So we eventually got to the mall, and of course, it was very busy, very crowded, lots of people, not too much standing room. But again, lots of conversations going on, even some debates over topics, but no one was arguing, no one was fighting. There was no physical violence at all. I didn't even beyond what I saw and heard, I didn't feel like there was any danger. And again, that was new for me. It was a very positive experience, and I wasn't really sure how to process it. So as we began to listen to the speakers do their bits, I noticed there were some themes in the speeches. One of them was the theme of atonement, that Black men needed to do better, and we need to help each other do better in terms of functioning society in our own neighborhoods and in our own households. There was also the theme of we don't need permission. I believe someone spoke about towns that were founded and made prosperous by Black folk, and they were later burned down or destroyed for whatever reasons. And they were pointing to as examples of what we could do when we worked together and did for ourselves. Now, the key speaker at the event was the Reverend Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam. And while at the time I wasn't particularly a big supporter of him, I have to say that almost everything he had to say was truthful. It was directed from a Black man to other Black men, and it was a tone of accountability, tone of encouragement. Um, he spoke with a sense of what will be done as much as what should or could be done. I remember leaving that day feeling very positive about myself and about my people. When we went to bed that night, I still didn't know how to process everything I had seen and felt, but I did know that I was becoming different. I could feel myself thinking differently, feeling differently, and it felt like that was growing. It was the beginning, like a seedling sprouting. It felt like that was growing. And I sincerely hoped and prayed that it would continue to grow, that I would continue to change along the lines of what I was seeing and feeling from that experience. And I had hopes that that would expand, though I didn't know if it really would or not. So, with the telling of the basic story, there are some things I would like to focus on and emphasize in greater detail. An important part of the experience is how I was affected by the fact that I made an out loud verbal prediction and watched it come true. Prior to going to the march, I talked a lot, I'm sure. Didn't really believe in, didn't really believe I had the power to speak something into existence. I was aware that the Christian Bible says that God spoke all of reality into existence. I'm aware that the Bible tells us God's Spirit dwells in us, but I had not yet made the leap, or perhaps life experiences barred me from making the leap to believing I had some of God's creative power in me. It's still a big thing to think about so many years later, even as I have at times and in some big ways exercised that power to see some really wonderful things come to pass. And it does sadden me to know that creative power doesn't have a nature in itself, that human beings can use that creative power to do good or to do harm. I was determined to use the power to do good. Quality of life is in large part determined by how much peace we have. And when I say peace, I don't just mean the absence of conflict or turmoil, but I mean the presence of the things you need to feel peaceful: safety, um, properly fed, properly housed, properly engaged and stimulated, um, having a sense of belonging. Those are things that are all important. I lost my sister when I was 8 years old, and she was 6. And from the time I was 8 until I had this experience, I don't think I ever felt safe. I don't think I ever felt really at peace. I always felt like I was in danger. And there were a number of different reasons for that, which I'm sure I'll get into another time. But what I felt at this march, the kind of peace I felt was really deep. I felt safe on all levels, and the nurturing. I mean, on the train car, the women that approached us, when they first came at us, I'm thinking, uh-oh, they're interested somehow, they're trying to hit on us or whatever. I just wasn't prepared for the acceptance we received from them. They treated us like family, even though it was the very first time we'd ever met. And that was pretty amazing. And that's something that stayed with me, that stays with me. I remember in my body and in my heart how that felt and what a relief it was for me. Like a thirsty guy in the desert. Cool splash of clean, sparkling water. It was super nice. One of the signs that you're experiencing a real transformation is discontent. It's one thing to be dissatisfied with circumstances or conditions, and it's another thing to feel that they're wrong, somehow unfair or unjust, and feel a longing, kind of a burning to change them. When we're a certain way, we're conditioned to accept things as they are. But when we begin to change, when we have boundaries and limitations broken or stretched, and we have a sense of what could be, that ought to be, those are signs that transformation is happening. And I began to experience them. The really cool part to me was my awareness that the change was coming from the inside. I'd spent so much of my life experiencing being changed from the outside with the carrot or the stick, so to speak. But this change was coming from the inside. I was driving the change. I was experiencing the need for things to be better. So external forces, while they could try to be barriers or trip hazards, being driven from the inside pushed me to overcome them. What's the old saying? If you can't go around it, go through it, or go over it, or go under it. I mean, just find a way. Being motivated with a sense of purpose can really make the difference in how much success we have in dealing with the obstacles that we come across in life. Again, Change was inside, felt things blooming and flowering that demanded my attention. They were things that had existed in me my whole life, but I had successfully stifled or smothered because the external world didn't seem to be willing or able to accommodate or tolerate those ways of being. And yet here I am having an experience that showed me things I thought should be, but didn't believe could be, actually were. And I was determined to reproduce that in my own unique way. When I was very young, my mother used to take my sister and I to a place called Walgreens. Historically, it's been like a little department store, drugstore, a combination of lots of things. But the one we went to in downtown Louisville also had a small cafe, a little restaurant in there. My sister and I called it the eating place. We were young, 7 and 5, I believe, at the time. It was one of our favorite places to go for me for two reasons. One, it was one of my earliest experiences finding a sprig of parsley on my plate. I mean, I almost always got the cheeseburger and fries, but they would put a sprig of parsley on the plate, which of course gave me the opportunity to ask my mom, why is there, why are there plants on my plate? Is that a vegetable? It's not, doesn't have butter on it. You should be able to eat it. She explained what parsley was for, and I thought that was kind of cool. Second reason was, well, technically the second reason was my sister and I had so much fun there together. It was great. But the other reason was they would have little placemats, the paper ones with the little mazes and games on them. And I used to always to love to do the maze. But I found early on that I didn't have a lot of talent starting from the beginning and working my way to the end. I would like hit roadblocks and obstacles and stuff, and I get frustrated having to backtrack and find another way. At some point, I started working the maze from the end point back to the beginning point, and I was very good at that. I found that it wasn't the same as going forward. If I knew where I wanted to go, I could plot a path, plan a series of steps backwards to get to where I was at the beginning. And that's something I learned at the Mooch. Learned that despite my own misgivings earlier, I had a destiny. Um, and the destiny was a vision of how I could be with other people. It was a very broad, multiple application vision, destiny. It was the first time I felt solidly that it could be, in fact, that it would be. It was just a matter of getting there. So it began to form in me a solid idea about taking what was changing, what was growing in me, what I let go of and what I gained, and actually doing something with it to achieve that destiny. I did not know where it would be, when it would be, or precisely how it would be manifested, but I did know that it was going to be, that I was going to do it, and I was going to do it in conjunction with other people. And having a sense of destiny is very comforting. It's if you are a Christian and you believe in the Bible, and the book of Revelation says this is how it's going to be in the end. I mean, a lot of challenges along the way, but in the end, it will be paradise. That was the kind of sense that I had. And it's something that gave me lots of driving force, lots of peace, lots of flexibility as I went forward after the march. But that's a story for another time. We'll come back to that. I saw a prediction come true that was made en route, bolstered my belief. I felt immersed in full peace while I was there, something entirely new for me. I experienced mental and emotional chains breaking, setting me free, and I sensed destiny at work in my life, pulling me towards what was supposed to be for me. And lastly, my encouragements for you. First, no matter what, change is possible. Habits, roots, obligations, reality can be changed if you don't give up on yourself. Number two, remember to make yourself available. We get caught up in going from one thing to another thing, and we need to spend more time simply being available, present for what comes to us. On that note, number two, number three, and number four, be open to what God brings to you. So many gifts are disguised as problems or inconveniences, and be open to what God takes you to. Often, when we redirect it from the path we set for ourselves, we're being taken someplace that's good for us and good for it. A reminder of my hopes for you that you might better see and believe in the capacity for transformation in yourself and choose to walk that path, that you might see and better believe the capacity for transformation in other people and encourage them to find and walk their path, and that we might all better see and believe in the capacity for transformation in humanity in the same way that God does. A reminder on building together. If you'd like to support my labor of love, you may scan my master QR code with your smartphone to access all platforms and accounts, or you can copy and paste this link into your browser. No donation amount is too large or too small. It's simply a matter of your willingness to support me and help me create higher quality content if you've enjoyed and appreciated and you want others to be able to enjoy and appreciate it as well. Well, thank you. Coming soon, Series 1, Episode 3, The Blessings, Acts of Faith Rewarded. This has been a LifeSource education and encouragement project. Thank you so much for being here.